Welcome to another episode of Women in Research. I'm your host, Nekesta Esther, and I'm actually very excited for the guest today. I will let her introduce herself. Welcome, Prof.
Thank you very much.
Yes, kindly introduce yourself.
My name's Professor Agnes Mwang'ombe. I come from the Faculty of Agriculture, but specifically Department of Plant Science and Crop Protection. That's where I'm based.
Welcome, Prof, to Women in Research. Of course, this episode is about you, and we are curious. We want to know your journey of how you ended up where you ended up. We know you're famous for semis, your very latest, and how we got introduced to you. Just tell the audience what semis is first, and then we can go back to your story.
Okay. Well, semis is one of my last kind of ventures I've done in the University of Nairobi, and maybe for recent people who have arrived, that is the one you'll identify with. But semis in full stands for Seed Enterprise Management Institute. We added an S because I had a colleague who we were working with, and said he had some roots from South America, so he said we add an S. Okay. So that's why we are semis. And we are in the Department of Plant Science, Upper Kabete campus. That's where we are based. And I had to, it was not just a small program, I must say. It was a major program. And it came about, again, through my research activities, that indeed we've been working so hard as researchers, and then colleagues in plant breeding are producing seed. And I work a lot with plant breeders because I'm in plant pathology. I'm a professor of plant pathology, but in host resistance. So you end up working with plant breeders. And all the time we are publishing, we are getting promoted, but then we don't see the impact on that seed in the farming community. So now I started looking for funding. And that was not an easy game because you are moving out of your profession and you are diversifying. So for quite some time I had the idea, but then one time the AGRA asked me as a college principal in Upper Kabete campus to host the outgoing UN lady, UN for World Food Program, to host her to give a talk. So they were to come to my campus. And then they gave very interesting conditions that I cannot, as a host, I can't talk. Then I told them, if I'm hosting a meeting and I can't talk, then why don't we go to Hilton, Serena, and have the meeting there? If you are coming to my campus, I have to talk. I have to have my colleagues attend, and so on. And then they said, fine. So I gave my opening remarks there about what we are doing, and I floated my other idea towards the end about this seed. And after we gave them high tea, people are not leaving. And the boss of AGRA, then the president, Dr. Ngongi, wanted to have a conversation with me. Why is it that we are here in Nairobi and we are not doing any work with you? So I told him, well, I've been funded a lot, severally, by Forum, by Rockefeller Foundation, but somehow AGRA has not funded me. So this is my idea. And he told me on Monday, my team of 3 will be here to actualize this idea. So I shared with them the concept note, and we got very good funding, 4.2 million US dollars to build and set up that program to start training people from sub-Saharan Africa. So semis is not a Kenyan business. It's for capacity building for the whole continent. And we modeled it around Iowa State University in US. So we made trips there But then I said, no, your infrastructure is too big. What I want is a miniature of. So we worked with Iowa State University, their engineers, and that's how we came up with that facility and started training. I have developed with my colleagues 7 course modules, which have been running. And at the moment, we have trained in 22 African countries.
Wow.
And we have trained over 1,500 seed personnel. The other company, the other component which we do for SEMIs is to support private sector startup companies. So that we have the small seed companies which want to do business in seed, but they don't have the facilities. So then they enter into contract or agreement with the University of Nairobi, and we process seed. So we do handle tons and tons of seed. We tend to keep our clients' identity close. That one is known to administration. But otherwise, we are doing that support. So besides capacity building for seed companies, we also support them, those who want to engage with us, and we are doing that. And then also we had an MSc program which had come out from that program. So we are pretty busy in there.
You are. And imagine this is a project within the department.
Yes.
I'll come back to that. Just hold on to that point. I will come back to it so that you tell me how you handle all your duties or all your responsibilities. You'll tell us.
Yes.
But then how did you end up there, Prof? Now, as a woman in academia, as a lady, did you grow up knowing this is where you wanted to end up? As a researcher, academia?
Those are things which I must say I explored much later. But starting, I was very clear I wanted to do agriculture. Way in primary school, there are times we blame our parents that when, for us who grew up in the countryside, when you are told to go to the garden, you feel like it's a job you can't do. To me, it was easy because that's what I liked. I liked planting. I see how things are growing. I make mistakes, I correct. And so many times I was with our gardener doing all those things. But I was pretty stubborn in that I wanted to learn it myself. So I'll make a mistake and then I go back to him, want to know why is your crop looking better than mine? And then always the spacing was the wrong. Like one time I planted maize, like I'm planting carrots. And it all grew so tall, there were no cobs. Then I asked, what is happening here? And he told me, this is the mistake you did. So you correct, you move. And so when I thank God, I passed well. I went to Murray Girls High School. But I like mentioning my first primary school is Kungu Primary School. That is in Wundanyi. That's where I went to school. In Taita. And then after that, I went to Murray Girls High School. But of course, that was kind of a disappointment to my dad, who really wanted me to go to Alliance. And you know, when he talked to me about going to Alliance Girls, it's because his year met. Many Kenyans don't know. The first woman to do a degree was from Taita.
Oh, nice.
And she's now late. And above all, she did mathematics. In Makerere University. So my father had mapped up, go to Alliance, go to Makerere, and you do medicine. Medicine was not for me. So I moved on. When I went to Murray Girls, I worked hard. I was top girl with a good Division 1. And I was admitted to Alliance Girls. So you can imagine the excitement to my dad. That's one already achieved. So when I went to Alliance, I was very clear now as I'm moving along, as I discussed with our career master, then he said, you love agriculture too much. You have to go into agriculture. I said, yes, that's what I want. And my dad didn't want me to do agriculture, wanted me to do medicine. He even brought a medical doctor
To advise.
an Indian medical doctor to advise me. And he happened to have gone to Makerere. So he told me, you know, when you go and do agriculture in Makerere, you are going to be driving tractors.
Oh.
I told him that's what excites me. So he told my father, give up.
Yeah.
So from Alliance, indeed, I went to Makerere. So you can see all these are fulfilling.
Yes.
Why was my father aware of Makerere?
Yeah.
In early time, during colonial time, he worked with Mzungus. So they used to go around East Africa.
Yeah.
So he was familiar with that university.
Makerere.
It has a fantastic guest house even today. I'm very proud of my university. I'm alumni from there.
It's good. We are babies of Makerere, so at least.
Yes, I'm very proud of my university.
Yeah.
And so from there, I identified to go into plant pathology, purely because it's very exciting. Like one of my friends would tell me, you people who are always ending your words with log, pathology, what, all those. And the hard names excited me.
Yeah.
You're talking of choletrotricum lindemuthianum, choletrotricum this. That excited me. I said, this is where I want to be.
All right.
So that mentorship again, I picked it from one of our lecturers. He said those words with ease. He was a Nigerian who taught us. Then when I moved to University of Nairobi, I thank Professor Daniel Mukunya. He really, even today, he calls me his daughter.
Wow.
He worked with me. Don't forget, there were no women in the profession I'm
So
pursuing.
you're joining UN at what level?
We had this challenge. Indeed, some of you are still very young.
Yeah.
I went to Makerere at the time of Idi Amin.
Okay.
When he was the president. So I did my 2 years there.
Okay.
My third year, we lost one girl. I will not name her because it's a very sensitive issue for the family. We lost a girl there. So Kenya government withdrew all Kenyan students back, except those who are sponsored by UN or World Health Organization. So we came back. So I joined my third year in the University of Nairobi, Upper Kabete. That's when I met Professor Mpunya and also the Dean of the faculty. And they were very supportive. Like the Dean was a former student of Makerere, so he was very familiar with our program. We didn't repeat anything. Our marks were transferred here. And so as a top student, again, I excelled.
All right.
And then again, after you excel, you're having scholarship. Today, scholarships are difficult to come by.
Yeah.
But during our time, it's your choice.
You're the one to say no.
Like when it came to the job, we were already hired after our exams.
Wow.
So it is now you, the ministry, you tell the ministry, sorry, I don't want the job. I'm staying on for masters or something. But we're already hired.
Wow.
So, and really good times.
Yeah.
It's no longer there. So they just tell you, go come and report and go take 2 weeks off and come back to prepare for your start. But you have reported for your salary. So I've never forgotten the day I reported. That was 4th July.
Oh, wow.
So then I wanted to do plant pathology masters. But that year, they decided it was a new program and they decided they are only bringing mainly staff from the field to come and do, to support the government. So my classmate who was who stayed on was top in that subject. So I always told him, you beat me in that subject, that's how you got the slot, and I had to go to the field. I was given scholarships for masters in agriculture economics, and I disappointed. We had German lecturers, but I said, no, that's not my calling. My calling is plant pathology.
Okay.
And so I went and came back after 2 years with a scholarship, and I took up that. Then I did my master's, and then while I'm doing my master's, I think I enjoyed what I was doing, but I also loved adventure.
Okay.
I've been sponsored by the Ministry of Agriculture.
Yes.
Then my professor, our professor, Professor Mpunya, tells me, there's another job, my daughter. in Coffee Research Foundation, and I want to take it.
Okay.
So I said, fine, I apply, I go. When I go there, the director agriculture, Minister of Agriculture, is the one interviewed, the chair.
Wow.
He just said, sorry, we just gave you a scholarship the other day. How can you be coming here?
For a job.
I'm not interviewing you. Go back. So I was not interviewed.
Oh.
Then they interviewed other people.
Yeah.
Then 1 week later, the same professor brings me a letter. You have been appointed to go to research, to go and do your research work, MSc there. So I said, but they didn't interview me. They said, yeah, the one we didn't interview, I think, is the best. So I ended up in coffee research, and I did my master's, research only.
Yeah.
So I transferred there briefly.
Oh.
I did my research, completed. But my journey was not over.
Okay.
You can't do even today. I do, if there is anybody sitting here or listening to me, and you've got a master's and you haven't done your PhD, you're half done. So I hope I'm not talking to you, but I hope you're listening.
I'm listening.
You're half done.
Yes. I'm
Because
listening.
for me, who went through A level,
Yeah.
we used to say, if you go to A level and you don't go to university, you came to waste your time. You should have stopped education at Form 4 level. Why did you go to A level and you play around, you fail and go to university?
Okay.
So masters, I see it as a stepping bridge for your PhD work.
All right.
And so if anybody who has done that,
Yeah.
please just push yourself a little and you get in, clear that hurdle
Yeah.
and move on. So I was busy looking, and as I said, it was not difficult during that time. The scholarships were available. So I just inquired from colleagues in the Ministry of Education, do you have any scholarships? They said, yeah, we have scholarships, Commonwealth. And most of the people taking them are not in science, are in liberal arts and so on. So we are really looking for scientists to step in this space. I said, I'm here.
Okay.
So I got interviewed. I have a scholarship. I'm looking for admission now. But meanwhile, this is the time I took a critical decision in my life and said, it's time to get married.
Oh, wow.
Because I kept it at abeyance. And you can imagine at that time, it was pressure for us.
Yeah.
You're overstaying, not getting married,
In fact,
and so
in your
on.
undergraduate,
Yes.
you should have come out with someone and...
No, you just say no, thank you. And you get tortured by your own classmates, by the way. And you have to develop a language for them. Because somebody tells you, why are you suffering with us here? Your colleagues have gone out and done secretarial. They are secretaries of bosses. And you look at him, you say, you who I'm beating in class,
You're the one.
I can't even hire you as my personal assistant. So the story ends there.
Yes.
Are you with me? So we have to develop a language to counteract that pressure. And the pressure from, of course, the good thing, I had the support of my father and my mother, always had the last voice.
Okay.
And they asked me, you have younger siblings, they want to get married. What do we do? I say, no, get son-in-laws, go ahead. For me, I have to clear this path I've started. So I was very clear on my education path. So once I did my master's, now I said I do. So we wedded with my boyfriend, who was also in academics.
Okay.
So I get a scholarship, I'm going to London. He has a Kenya government scholarship to go to Canada.
Wow.
So now, life then was very different. The country,
completely, I can imagine.
The country needs personnel.
Yeah.
So now he went back and said, I'd like to change from Canada to London to be with my wife.
Eish.
And it was changed, easy.
We applaud him.
It was changed. So he didn't go
Wow.
to Canada, he went to University of London. different colleges, of course. So, but it's not as easy. Let me say, it's not as easy. At that time, we suffered our own setbacks. And for me, I say 3 setbacks. Other women tell me 2, but I talk of 3. The first one is your own male colleague. You have no support. And I'm venturing into an area where we really don't have a role model to look up to. So now I have a scholarship, a government scholarship. I'm holding a government job. I am entitled to leave of absence, and I can't get it. And so I go to my boss, to our boss, explain I have a scholarship. And you know what she told me? Sorry, Agnes, look at your colleagues here. You are the last one, age-wise, to undertake a PhD. So-and-so has no PhD, so-and-so has no PhD. Those are the ones who will go first before you. Then I told him, sir, frankly, I don't need a PhD to retire with. I want a PhD for working. And that's it. So I walked away. And that was the end of the story. So what I did, I worked with another colleague of mine who had just got his PhD from Netherlands. And he was really encouraging. He told me, Agnes, don't worry about these old archaic people and their thinking. They can't support women. They can't support, you are a woman who wants to pursue education. How many women are doing this? So just forget about it. Get your scholarship, get your admission sorted out. Now, admission was also a challenge. I got admitted, and one of the dean himself refused to give me a recommendation letter. I said, what is happening? Is this University of Nairobi? These are challenges, girls outside there you face, but you have to stand up for your rights. I really mean it, because we can't continue glossing. We have gone through these hurdles, and we have to encourage girls outside there. When somebody stands in your way, just look straight into his eyes and just tell him, you know what? I don't belong to your club. I belong elsewhere. And that's exactly what I did. I said, my own dean, I'm one of the top students, and I can't get a letter, because you need a letter, 2 letters, one from your lecturer, and 1 has to come from administration, and it's the dean. And I'm denied that letter. Every day I'm told, come. Religiously I go, and I'm seeing the deadlines passing. So I go back to the professor who I call my father and calls me my daughter. And that's why I call him. Even today, he's fully retired. I respect him so much. And he told me, I went to his office, and for girls, look at me. Some of you think I'm very tough, but that's the only time I went and cried.
That day you cried?
Professionally, I've cried before, my own professor. And he looked at me and said, my girl, he actually touched me. He said, my girl, you're too tough for that. What is happening? I said, I can't get a letter. What do I do? He said, stay cool. Come back on Monday here. When is the deadline? 1 week, 2. He said, come back on Monday. You'll get your letter. I didn't know. So I came back. He said, don't go to the dean's office. So I went to his office, and he went to the secretary. Was the letter signed? He said, no. Can I have it? He took it. He signed for him. And took the rubber stamp.
And stamped it.
And stamped it. And brought me the letter. And he told me, go, do a speed post, and it will get to London. So I sent.
Imagine those days, even
those days.
Posts.
But the post office worked. Speed post. You send, 2 days is there. They worked. So I got my admission. Now, so you have a bottleneck for the letter, you have a bottleneck to be cleared from the office.
Yes.
So I said, no clearance, I walked out.
You went.
I had my ticket and I flew out. My husband was already ahead, so who would be stopping me? My husband is already in London, waiting for me. So I flew there. And of course, later I learned that our boss tried to use his connection so that I could have been blocked at the airport. So girls, we go through tough times, but you stand up. And I went there, worked very hard. In 3 years, I had my PhD.
Wow.
And not just a PhD, we were blessed with our daughter.
Oh my goodness. So how do you do all those things at the same time?
No, you make sure you, we finished the lab work, which was very intense. 7 days in a week, you go to church, you run back to the lab, 7 days in a week. And after that, then you allow other processes. And we had our daughter. She came 2 weeks after my defense. So when I went for my defense, my lab mates were not waiting for my degree. They were waiting for my baby. So when I came back out looking like that, they said, honestly, Agnes, you have disappointed us. We thought we were receiving the baby. He said, no, they didn't do it hard enough. So at least I've passed my PhD. Now I can go and have my baby.
Wow.
So I got my baby 5 weeks later. And at that time, let me tell you, many people didn't want to stay to come home. They wanted to stay abroad. But for us, we really were determined to come home. And so I flew back. I had no job. I called this professor. I told him I'm back. He couldn't believe that I had my PhD. So I was hired on phone as the first woman in mainstream faculty of agriculture with a PhD. Wow. I didn't do any interview. You can look for my interview here. I didn't do no interview for my first employment here as a lecturer because I had my PhD. He just told me, no, we'll hire you in absentia, and I'm in Nairobi. So I started teaching, and I've never looked back.
Wow.
But then that caused kind of a stir because now when my former employer learned I've come back with a PhD, some other people said, no, you denied her rights for 80% of the salary she has to get. So a meeting was convened. I was very kind. I went. That they want to recruit me and pay me the money. I said, thank you. I've already been hired by University of Nairobi.
So you've come back, Prof. You have your PhD. You have a job.
Yes.
So what then pushes you to do other things apart from, I'm assuming, according to me, you've arrived.
Back.
You've arrived in terms of career.
Yes,
as you're there,
yes.
You're on the top. So you have your PhD, you have your job as a lecturer. What then pushes you to?
Okay. As I say, I love research.
Yes.
Teaching, yes.
Yes.
But I get more driven by research.
Okay.
I just want to find solutions. And so one of the things at the time I came, 88, the country, our newspapers were awash that girls cannot do science. Girls cannot do mathematics. And I said, what are we talking about? I'm from Alliance, Makerere, University of Nairobi, Imperial College of Science and Technology and Medicine. What are we talking about? That we can't do science. So that motivated me to mobilize women in agriculture and environment. So we formed, it was very difficult again, to form that time. You are a new graduate, young, you have come with foreign ideologies. Is the system going to be very receptive? Not quite. But I had a clout. I managed to mobilize women in agriculture and environment, and we struggled to register Kenya professional women in agriculture and environment, Kipawae. And I was the first president. And in there, our whole idea was to mobilize resources so that girls who are called to national schools, Alliance, Kenya High, the Limurus, don't fail to take up their place because of poverty. And then there were the challenges of early marriage. We had to counteract that. And we really mobilized resources. By the time I was stepping down, honestly, I had done no less than 750 girls from Kenya. Some of them are holding PhDs like me. And then we started a mentorship program. I started a mentorship program. Then, so besides doing my research, looking for funds, and I've been funded severally by different donors, locally here in Kenya, I was again in the forefront for that. I served and I stepped down in 2001 to allow other people now to drive that. But then as I was stepping down, I had been seen. You know, when you're active, other people see you. So then the CGI Center at ICRAF invited me. We start another program for women in agriculture and environment, because even today it's a problem in Kenya, and women listening to this here is still a problem. That we have the education, we have what it takes, but we are locked here in mid-cadre. You can't cross over. So we had to start a sub-Saharan. At first we started with East Africa, Kenya, Uganda, and Tanzania. Then we got bigger funding from Gates, and that program is called AWARD. I was the first vice chair there. Again, I served there for 5 years. But when I became too busy in administration, I had to step out. But as I'm stepping out, again, I'm seen at the global level. So I've had, and that I am ever so, I'm actually ever so proud to have served in that, at that position. I was one of the board members for the consultative group of international agricultural research, what we call CGI, where the ICRAF, the ILRI, the WHO are below there. And we are based in Montpellier in France. So I served again for 6 years. So my time was not just for Kenya. I did a lot of other regional, international work. We set up RU Forum, the regional universities is still running. So I was one of the few who spent a lot of time in Entebbe, coming out with the strategy. And so I look back and then I say, I think I put in a lot of my time locally as well as internationally, and I'm ever so grateful in there. And let's not look at just semis. Before then, we have like the beans. I was working with plant breeders. We came up with the beans which got commercialized. They're in the market. Kenyan farmers are enjoying that. So you continue working. And then one of the components, the offshoots from AWARD, is the mentorship program, which I brought to University of Nairobi through my college. And our vice chancellor then really was keen to know what is making curves, as we are called, to be a very calm campus, while we knew it was famous for strikes. I said, no, there are some things I'm doing with my students which are working well. I started professional mentorship in Kabete. I had to train mentors, colleagues I had to train. mentors, and then we support our students. That is what gave birth to the current mentorship program we have in the University of Nairobi.
Wow.
So the Vice Chancellor then asked me, okay, can you share, you have shared with us, and with what is happening in medical school, I think you people can come together and we come up with a university-wide mentorship program.
Yeah.
So indeed, I put a team together and colleagues from medical school, and now you have this mentorship program running.
Wow.
It was an offshoot from ours, which has come in.
Yeah.
And so I say, one of the reasons I am a believer of the mentorship program, during our time, you have your dream, you dream big, you go on. We didn't have too many distractions.
Yeah.
The only distraction you had is if your parents could afford to have a radio,
Yeah.
which was KBC,
Yeah.
or a TV,
Yeah.
which was KBC, one channel.
Yeah.
And if you have nice, strict parents,
Yeah.
it is limited. But now with the mobile phones, if your parent says you can't, and if they have bought you a mobile phone, you'll be watching your movies. So there's a lot of distractions.
Yes, true.
So we need indeed to reinforce the professional mentorship,
Yeah.
so that we don't lose brilliant young people shunning off. Because there is this idea, easy to make money. There is no easy to make money. Walk along your professional line and the money will accompany you, will come along the way.
Yeah.
And so I look back and I am glad with what I did, and I thank God. But above all, for those of us who are married,
Yeah.
I talked very much about the support from my parents.
Yeah.
But there's the transition you have in your life. Now you are a married person. I'm a person who is married,
Yeah.
so I have a family.
Yeah.
How do you move along with your family? I tell any married woman, if you're doing anything in there and you're calling it yours, you're actually digging a grave for your own marriage.
All right.
Pull your family together. This man and the children should know whatever you're doing is for the benefit of our family,
All right.
not just the name for me and so on. Because otherwise you can be globe-trotting.
Yes.
And you come home and you have no home. The carpet has moved.
Yeah. True.
So I keep saying for that, those of us who believe in marriage, let's walk together, explaining. You don't get tired explaining to your family. Do I get tired teaching in class?
No.
I don't.
Okay.
So why should it be like a long route to do that? So it's more for the young people, even for the older, because sometimes when you start becoming senior, then your husband feels you are leaving him behind. And if you don't play, you as a woman, because women, we have a very tough card. I always keep saying, if you don't play your card well, you can lose. But use that card well, and you hang in there with each other. So,
I have really enjoyed having you here, Prof.
I thank my family for the support they have given me all along in my career, from both my parents and then later, they are now late, and now my own family. And so we have one saying we say in our home, we are a family of equal opportunities.
Wow.
And so when you apply that, you tell your daughter, what can you do? Me, I can do ABCD, what can you do? And so on. So I think in a nutshell, that is Agnes Mwang'ombe.
I have really loved listening to you.
The girl from the hills.
Yes.
That's how I pride myself.
I have really enjoyed listening to you, Prof. How many years has it been just working for you?
It has been a long walk. I've done with University of Nairobi up to 70. Up to 70, my retirement.
Oh.
I've done 35 years in the University of Nairobi. And then University of Nairobi on my retirement, somehow felt I shouldn't quite leave the university.
Okay.
So then they gave me an appointment as Professor Emeritus. So now I'm Professor Emeritus.
I didn't even know I'm talking to a Professor Emeritus.
So now I'm Professor Emeritus in the Department of Plant Science.
Yes.
And I think I love that because I'm able to share my retirement time with university. But at the same time, I can't do full time. That's one thing I've told our dean and my chairman. I thank them so much for the support. And also the vice chancellor for listening to the department request that they took me in as Professor Emeritus, but I can't give them 100% which I was doing before.
I mean, it's completely understandable. 35 years of your life. That's a good amount of time, really.
Yes.
Thank you. I know someone else has already told you thank you, but thank you for coming here on this program, Women in Research. I really feel like I've picked very wise, wisdom from the time you started talking, and that's why I was listening so keenly. And do you have anything at all that you feel like you haven't said, maybe in terms of parting shot?
Really, how would I put it? I still want to encourage the young people. And, you have an opportunity. You get into some space and you actualize it. Okay. And that space which allowed me was I campaigned. That part you didn't hear of me. I campaigned and I became dean in the Faculty of Agriculture.
Yes.
And up to now, I'm the only elected female dean in the faculty.
Oh.
And being since I was in administration, one of the things I used to emphasize was the fact that deanship should always remain elective.
Okay.
Even now, I can still say it, even if I'm emeritus, that no vice chancellor should come and deny academic members that opportunity.
Yes.
Because not all of us can serve as chairmen. But there's a lot of leadership qualities you can still allow colleagues to pick a leader. And that's how I got into administration. It was through deanship. Campaigned, it was not easy. As you can imagine, first senior there with a PhD in the faculty. Yeah. Yes, I was the first woman with a PhD in that faculty. Yeah. Other than I do recognize Professor Margaret Onyweke, who was in animal production. Okay. But in the mainstream agriculture, I was the first woman with a PhD. Yes. So still that seniority. Yes. Then I decided, okay, at some point, things were not going quite right. So I had to jump into administration. Now, I didn't know that once I got there, you have the opportunity to see, number one, I made an assessment. And I declared to the Vice Chancellor then that we are having aged staff. Okay. Because I did a check and we didn't have a single academic member of staff who was below 40. So all of us were aged. So I had to now start pushing for recruitment. And then now when an opening for principal for the College of Agriculture and Veterinary Sciences came in, I applied and I was picked competitively. So I served the university for 10 years as a principal. Yes, for that. Now that is a long time for you to make changes. Okay. And so, guided by the gender policy, where we are saying at least 30% should be women. And so when you interview people, the top 3, if the top 1 is a man, you say, no, we have enough men. Can we pick the number 2 or number 3 who is a woman so that we can start creating some gender balance? So that one, I am proud I did effectively in the Faculty of Agriculture, and I pushed it in Faculty of Vet Medicine, which is a very male-dominated profession.
All right, Prof.
So
before we wrap it up, because I see we have used up our time. Just two last questions. Do you remember your PhD topic, thesis, and your master's thesis topics?
Of course I do.
Please tell us those two, and then we wrap it up.
My master's was in resistance to benomil, the fungicide. It's a fungicide which got taken up very fast in controlling coffee berry disease, a disease on coffee, and it was misused, and within 3 years, it couldn't control. So my master's was to try to understand the pathogen behavior, what is making it not work, and come up with a solution.
Yes.
And then my PhD was on host pathogen resistance.
Okay.
I was looking at elicitas. And you have asked me a very interesting question. The other day, when I came in and I was hired, I literally jumped into class.
Yeah.
I was making notes as I'm teaching.
Yes.
So the first class I taught was an MSc plant breeding.
Okay.
Now, last month, I get an invitation from one of the students who I taught then, very brilliant. It was a very brilliant class because all of them, there were about 12, all of them have PhDs.
Yes.
And he's a professor at JKU.
Okay.
And he invited me to be an external examiner on elicitors. And I said, Professor Nyende still remembers my lectures I gave in 1988 and said the person who can examine this thesis is Professor Mwang'ombe. Wow. So last week I was in JKU looking at the issue of elicitors, which was around my PhD.
Wow.
So that one, I can close my eyes and still produce another draft.
Wow.
Yes.
Yes. So I'm personally so proud to have met you and to just have had this conversation.
Thank you
I'm
so
sure
much.
you feel the same way. I'm sure you've learned a lot. You've given us a lot of nuggets, you know, the challenges that you had to go through, leadership, how you balanced your career and, you know, family life. I mean, we are so, so grateful. Thank you so much for watching and have a good one.
Thank you too for inviting me here. I truly appreciate it. Thank you.
UNC TV, empowering you.